We'll be back with more of the Stuntmen when we return right after this.
I was a call to come in and coordinate the fights on Night of the Warrior, which has got some fabulous extended fights. And I first met Lorenzo at
the dojo.
At the dojo, and watched him do some demonstration work. And I said, "Oh well, we'll do the movie." And God, I'll have to find a double for this guy to do the movie. And Lorenzo did everything himself. He's a fabulous martial artist, and I didn't have to do much at all. He did it all himself.
Well, I'd like to elaborate on that a little bit, only because this man here is humble, and he is the best stunt coordinator I've ever worked with, and I've been in the business 13 years. And I say that simply because Rick does things so well that it's easier for the actors and the stunt people to do their job.
Most of the time, anytime you get in a tight situation, whether it's fighting, falling, doubling an actor, it's very hard to tease our audience nowadays or fool them. You have an experienced audience, they have an experienced eye for the camera. They can tell when we've changed the camera angle to hide the actor's face. But having Lorenzo in there for this particular movie, we didn't have to do
There's no tricks to being a good stuntman. It's all skill. Everything that you see on screen is skilled and takes hours and hours and hours of dedication and training. You can't walk up and just think that you know how to throw a screen punch. It takes hundreds of punches thrown to learn the timing, to learn how to not only execute a punch, but to take one, or a kick, or a fall. I mean, it's just an incredible accomplishment to be a working stuntman or stunt coordinator in this business, because it's a highly, highly competitive field.
Roll 'em. Well, that's Hollywood. We'll be back. An injury and sometimes death. Reed Rondell was one of the unlucky ones.
In Reed's case, it had nothing to do with his ability or anything else. You know, it was like it was pilot error, and I would be lying if I tell you that it didn't really hurt me deeply. And sometimes I thought, you know, geez, could I have done anything different? I mean, but from the time my sons were 5 years old, they had a racing license, and they raced motorcycles. You know, they surfed, they dove, they were all certified divers. They worked at everything, the trampolines, all the equipment. They knew their job. And in this particular instance, it was after the camera was cut, and they were flying back to number one, and it was pilot error, stuck a skid in the ground. As you know, the helicopter burned, and we lost Reed.
Reed, to me, was not indestructible, because I tended him too many times when he'd trip over something or, you know, bloody nose. It didn't matter, not necessarily doing stunts, just as a kid growing up.
The only good thing that comes out of, if there is such a thing, good thing that comes out of a death or whatnot, is the respect we get from other parts of the industry, producers or whatnot, as far as letting us have a little bit more prep time, a little bit more respect about what we do, not being into a big rush situation where basically a lot of times that's what happens. It gets down to the last minute, few minutes of the day, the light's right, going bad, whatever, and they push you into doing it, and your ego usually takes over, whatever. You say, oh yeah, I'll just go, I'll do it. You gotta be pretty secure with yourself and the way you deal with things, and if it's not right, don't do it, and don't be ashamed of it. When it is right, you do it, and you know, you're a hero. It works out perfect. But I wouldn't stop doing what I'm doing for anything.
Once a year, there's a day to remember Reed and to raise funds for the Reed Rondell Stunt Foundation by performing a variety of stunts and driving in this car race. Many stars turn out to acknowledge the bravery of stuntmen.
I think that they are the true heroes of today's motion picture business, and I have a hard time with actors that claim to do their own stunts, and when in fact we all know who the real guys behind the danger is, you know.
Dude, that's kind of that's an honor for my friend. It's like working with your best friend, and it's not like doing stunts. It's like trying to make him look his best. And with Charlie, you know, it's a pleasure. It really is. We have fun together. It's a lot of fun.
Oh, I've worked with so many stuntmen over the years. They're great people. They're really an interesting breed, and I've always loved to work with them. I had more fun doing stunts with them than probably doing any acting that I ever did.
They're crazy. They're all crazy in kind of the same way. They really believe in living on some kind of higher level, some kind of peak experience level, and they're willing to risk their lives. They do it very intelligently. They build in all the safety devices in the world, but their joy in life comes from taking things to an edge.
I think that they're incredibly concentrated. They're dealing with their lives here. Recently, a stunt guy just died, and it was a freak accident. Most of this stuff is quite calculated, and I think that their best ability is that they're concentrated and they know exactly what they're doing, and they lower the variables of getting hurt.
Stuntmen, doing what they do best, to honor one of their own. Wow, look, Mom, one-handed.
Stuntman is a professional athlete that we do these things day in and day out. We have to go to work every day, and we have to be very sure of what we do. Daredevils are guys that do things that they're not quite sure the outcome. That's the old way things used to be done, but because there's so many people involved on sets, and there's a lot of money involved, and safety's a very heavy criteria. Daredevil, we don't even like to talk about that anymore. The guys that want to do it, that's great, but we can't allow that kind of thing to happen in films.
I was doing some research on how people were doing fire burns prior to myself getting into the movie industry, and they'd use great big huge asbestos suits. I was trying to develop a technique to do a fire burn where I really looked like a person on fire instead of a man in a big suit. They were trying to do a TV series called The Torch at one particular time, and I developed this technique to try to sell the idea for me to do The Torch. That series never came about, but I found a method of doing a fire burn where I can do a full burn with just 2 sets of clothing on, look like a real person on fire instead of some person in a huge asbestos suit.
Many of the top names in show business, like Chuck Norris, turned out for the culmination of this event. It's a gala evening as a tribute to the hidden stars, the people who put the wow factor into pictures. It's a fancy dinner and an awards ceremony.
It's the Dar Robinson Safety Award, and I believe what it represents is work in the motion picture and television business as being a stuntman involved in safe stunts, arranging stunts that are safe, and foreseeing things that could go wrong and trying to deal with them before they actually happen, which is a big I think a lot of people think of stuntmen as being a daredevil, and it's really not that way, and it shouldn't be that way, because a stunt should be done safely, and daredevils take a lot more risks than I think we do. A lot of times we ride the edge, but we do it with a lot of safety involved. Yes.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's great.
A safety award in the memory of the legendary Dar Robinson, and an event in honor of Reed Rondell.